if you are in Botswana, only 101 cups of coffee. So please, if you're not a member yet, rethink and see whether it is going to work for you. Okay. Can I maybe ask everybody just to turn off their microphones? We will give an opportunity where you can ask questions, and then we can turn those on. Okay. I think we need to start. Okay, thank you very much. Natalie. Great. Natalie, if you can move to the next slide, please. Great. So if you are interested in becoming a member, please pop Natalie an email to info@iabc.co.za, and she will send you all the relevant information, and she will also send it in the monetary value of the country that you are in, just to make it easier. Okay, let's start. So what I would like to do is, first of all, say thank you so much for everybody and for taking the time to actually be here today. So I was at another webinar, and here this lady was telling us about clever research methods, and I thought, wow, this is fascinating. And I went to her afterwards, and she said, yeah, it's brilliant, but it's not my idea. You actually need to speak to Jani. And that's specifically what we did. So Jani, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for joining us today. So Jani is a qualitative researcher and a design thinking insight coach. She's got 20 years of experience. She has a master's degree in psychology, and she founded her own business called First Person in 2015. So businesses trust her to facilitate conversations with vulnerable groups or groups in vulnerable moments on topics that carry significant reputational or relational risks. And I was privileged to see her presentation beforehand, and you can really see that people trust her in terms of what she does and how she do things. I think what I like most is that Jani lives in Pretoria, but it's not that. It's the fact that she lives with her trophy husband and two daughters. Jani, I really laughed when I read that. So welcome and thank you.
Thank you so much. Hello, everybody. I'm so excited to be here with you today. I have tried using all kinds of projective techniques and all kinds of things in research over the years, and I've learned a few things. So I'm very happy to share what I've learned, and hopefully it's helpful to you.
Super. Jani, so can you just give us a brief overview of why you exactly chose that? Because from a communication point of view, research is extremely important to us. As IBC members, and when we follow the international best practice, we would like to have research first, because that normally informs what our objectives are, what our goals are, and then ultimately how can measure it. But it's also something that, especially when we evaluate the gold or the silver quills, that we see that people, they kind of fall out of us because they don't know what to do. And normally when you talk research and it's for an CFO, they're like, yeah, but what's the quantitative research? So why did you go into qualitative, and how do you think that can link back to what we do in comms?
So I'm married to a statistician and a numbers person, and we've always had this debate. When I talk about my data, he says, oh, you mean your opinions? So I know.
Ooh, I know.
I know this is a problem, but for me, I'm from a psychology background, and qualitative research is helpful because it allows the discovery of new information. So if you have something that you believe is a good hypothesis and you need to test it quantitatively, by all means, there's an absolute place for that. But if you've got a difficult problem, or you've got something that you don't understand yet, or you want to do innovative work and discover new things, then qualitative research is the way to go. And it's very relevant to any communication work, because if we are going to speak to people in a language that they can relate to and can absorb, and we are going to try and convey a message that hits their heart and that speaks to underlying motives and deeper needs, then here you want to have research that informs that for you, so that you can go and find out where are they in life and what's happening with them, instead of just designing and writing copy and sharing it from your perspective. So whatever you do based on research can be human-centered, and it can address real problems, and it can address things that will actually be meaningful and impactful.
Fantastic. So we are all fed up with surveys and WhatsApp polls and focus groups. So Jani, over to you, and please lead us into this amazing world of yours. We are really looking forward to it.
No, it's my pleasure. So I'm going to share from here. Okay, let's see. Share. Okay, you see my pink screen?
Yes, we do. Thank you.
Okay, cool. So this is a deck of qualitative research tools. So it's projective and enabling techniques developed specifically for online qualitative research in Africa. But we are going to look at what makes a projective or an enabling technique, so that you are able to take it apart and create a new one for whatever context or whatever situation you're facing. So we are going to look at first principles, that if you understand those things, then you can design any technique that you might need. Then we'll have a library of techniques. I'm going to run through them very quickly, because you'll all get this deck and you can go and find one that's fit for your purpose. Then we'll share some key learnings and some practice as well. So I just want to acknowledge all of these researchers, because in developing this material, I reached out to my network and say, please share with me stories and techniques that work. So yeah, I'm very thankful for these other researchers that also shared their learnings with me. So Africa, why can someone in California relate to what we're doing in Africa? Why is this an interesting conversation to have? It's because Africa is an extreme user. So this is maybe something we also should talk about, is sample design. When you're doing qualitative research, sample design. In quantitative research, you'll do a representative sample. If your universe is 1,000 employees, you want to do at least 100 of kind of sample 100 and look at all of the levels or all the locations, etc. With qualitative research, you will have much smaller samples, and your focus then is to look at the extremes. So you want to have the most loyal employee and a disgruntled employee. So you'll make sure that you are going to speak to someone who just went through orientation and that's still very excited to be here. And you might want to speak to someone who just had an exit interview, who's actually decided to leave the business. So you're going to look at the extremes, because if we understand an extreme user, they have needs that are more pronounced and kind of bigger than the big middle in between. So if we make sure that we understand all the extremes, we can most likely identify some really interesting unmet needs that could be relevant to everyone. If you look at the famous example that everyone uses in design thinking is suitcase design. The extreme user was a pilot who, he is flying every single day of his life and he's walking with a suitcase. So to design a suitcase for a pilot was the solution. Make it compact so it can fit into a small bin on the plane, and it's got wheels and you can just walk upright and pull your suitcase. And that is very relevant for the big middle. It's just that with that extreme user, we were able to really identify some unique, interesting needs that we could solve for. So yeah, Africa is an extreme user because we are, in many ways, we leapfrog old technology. So you would see mobile penetration in Africa maybe much bigger than you would see in some other markets, just because of our lack of infrastructure. And then the infrastructure that was built actually allows us to have things that you wouldn't see in other places. We also have maybe interesting situations like in South Africa when our power grid is under pressure. So what do you do? How do you do online research when your electricity can just cut out at any moment? So those are interesting use cases, and if you can solve for those, then you can cover many other use cases as well. And another thing in Africa is the diversity, because we've got just an incredible regional and language differences, cultural differences. If you design projective techniques to work in Kenya, will they actually work in Nigeria or in Zambia? So looking at understanding the diversity just in the African context allows you to really make robust solutions that can work almost anywhere. And then disposition to tech, we've got some very sophisticated market segments in Africa, and then you've got others that are not actually very tech literate. You've got maybe poor mobile signal in some places. So all of these things make it an interesting use case. And then if a Ghanaian says to you, you show them a concept and you want to get their feedback, and the Ghanaian say, it's okay, versus if a Nigerian says it's okay, it makes there's a difference in if that thing is good or not. So to understand that cultural norms and just the way people speak and the appropriate behavior in these different places, it can make a difference to how you interpret your results. So we can't just copy paste things from elsewhere. But in many ways, what we know about Africa is, or what we think we know, people outside of Africa think they know about Africa is outdated to a large extent. So, it's just a wonderful place to work. The industry was very hard hit by COVID, the research industry. So we had to make plans because, face-to-face interviews and things were at the order of the day pre-COVID. So COVID changed a lot of things for the research industry. And we had to make plans for online research, which has really revolutionized my business. It's wonderful. I'm so grateful, actually, that we can do so much online these days. Okay, so one of the first things is your client has to be your ally. If you're going to conduct research, you must have a good relationship with your client, because research is all about things going wrong. So many things can go wrong. So to understand and have buy-in and have a good relationship, a relationship of trust, a relationship of we're going to make a plan together, and where we know what we want to get out of this, and if things go wrong, then we tweak and we pivot and we find a different solution. If you want to in an interview and you're so stressed about it, just think that all you need to do is be solid. Just be yourself, be honest, just show up solid. You don't have to show up perfect. But if there's trust, and if you can just allow that and create that safety, then it's helpful for everyone. So I don't know if you know this book, Steal Like an Artist. It's a wonderful little book that I reread every year. So to say that if you're stealing like an artist, it means that you're not just copying someone's work. You are drawing inspiration from everywhere, and you're creating something new and better, something that's better than the sum of the parts of the things that you are referencing. So I'm sharing examples so that you can actually take these things apart and create something new that will fit your particular project or your problem. So hopefully I can explain this, and then you are equipped to do that. So why do we use projective techniques when we do qualitative research? Why can't you just ask the question? By the way, if that's an option, then you should rather just ask the question. But projective techniques are a way of building rapport, because we're being a little silly together. So there's some psychological safety if we can build some common ground, and we're all sharing stories, etc. So it builds rapport, and it creates psychological safety for us to just be honest and to have a productive interview. It helps us say hard things, because sometimes we're talking about difficult topics, and it's difficult for a consumer or a reader or a viewer or whatever you want to call them, stakeholder, who's just living their life, versus us who are thinking critically about communication and about how we design messages. It's difficult for that man on the street to just come and articulate how he thinks about communication and how he thinks about information that he consumes. So these techniques often enable them to to actually verbalize difficult things, and I'll show you examples. It gives creative courage because it is scary to show up for an interview. I've had people sit at a table, literally, you know, you can see they're so nervous. It's like they're almost shaking. And then it's so wonderful if you can do some activity and everyone can just relax and we can breathe and actually have a useful conversation. And it also helps us see our lives in a different light, because lots of conversation, lots of decisions that we take are just taken for granted knowledge, and it's helpful to then use these techniques. I just remembered something I shared incorrectly. Let me reshare and see if I can you see my face or not?
Sorry. Yes, we can. Yeah.
Oh, okay, great.
Yes.
Okay.
Super. Thanks.
Right. Okay, so what is a projective technique made up of? You need a mental model or kind of a theory within which you are designing this technique. So it fits within a certain way of thinking about the human experience. So it's just where this technique lives in terms of what you hope to get out of that. I'll show you an example now. An analogy is almost a creative vocabulary that lends itself to different expressions. So if you are just going to ask a question directly versus I'm going to say, pick a color that represents how you feel at this moment. That color is the analogy, or it's the different vocabulary that I'm introducing into the conversation to help you say something in a different way. And then you need an input mechanism. So if you're sitting across the table from someone, the input mechanism is literally them pointing to an option on the table or picking up an object. If you're online, it means, yeah, I'm going to, in some way, have to show you what my choice is or explain what I'm choosing. So mental models, here are two examples. The first one is the 3 centers of intelligence. So to remember that we all have access to 3 intelligences. So your action center, which is really the doing one. So you're directly, practically engaging with your body and the world. The feeling center is all about emotions, it's images, it's relational. And then your thinking center is rational logic. So it's your heart, your hands, and your head. So those 3. And each of us leads with one of them, and we've got kind of a stack or a hierarchy of how we use these things. So some people are going to just much easier be able to answer thinking questions and process questions, while others are able to just tell you what they would do, and others would be able to access emotions easier. So to make sure that we access all of these different intelligences to get us some richer data. Another mental model within which you can create techniques is to try and access system 1 or system 2 thinking. So system 1 is that automatic, almost lizard brain, quick answers and quick kind of reactive reactions. And system 2 is more slow, more rational, controlled, and analytical. So making sure you are conscious of which of these 2 systems you are trying to access with a specific technique. And if you think it would benefit, trying the other one as well to make sure that you then access other or use other techniques as well. So the analogies, examples could be family members. If I'm looking at different brands, which family member could each of these be? So this is like a trusted uncle. This is a weird cousin, etc. So that family would then be the analogy that you're introducing as a creative vocabulary. Or then an animal kingdom, although in Africa, weirdly, family members have worked better than animal kingdom. Different types of food have different types of meaning. So for instance, an onion representing, it could cry, it could make you cry, a cake representing rewards. So just making sure that you, if you're using these kind of symbols, are we all understanding them in the same way or not? Modes of transport, what can take you where, using soccer teams or musicians, etc., to say if this brand or this message could be a soccer team, which one would it be? And it's always about the reason why. Just me telling you, okay, so this is my Taylor Swift option, without explaining what I mean with that, doesn't mean anything. So they have to explain. So all of these kind of examples. The input mechanism, so we try to use what participants already have. So instead of getting them to download some weird app onto their phones, using up memory on their phones, if they're already using WhatsApp, then you use WhatsApp because it's easy and accessible, and it's now got wonderful new encryption, etc. So those kind of things. So just making sure that whatever there is already is easy to use, and it will just make it much quicker and better. You could also try and use non-verbal things like emojis or GIFs or memes, because it also helps you access a bit deeper level of meaning than just words. Within Zoom, we can do a waterfall technique, which is when you ask everyone to answer a question, but before they hit enter, we give enough time for all of us to write in the answer, and then we hit enter at the same time, and then it waterfalls into the chat. You do that when you don't want them to be influenced by each other's answers. On-screen hand signals. So I've used this with kids to say, hold up your hand to show me a score out of 5. Hold up your hand. Are you giving it 5 stars or just 1 or nothing? So those kind of things. Choice anchoring, which means I'm going to give you choices, but before we say anything, make sure you write down what you chose. Write it down. And then you're going to give me that answer, so you're not influenced by what the others are saying. There's also a whiteboard function within Zoom. It's got lovely features like the simultaneous translation function in Zoom. It's just on a tier up paid plan, but then you can have an interpreter on the call, which can give you a Swahili and a French audio track while we're just listening to the group, which is fantastic and works really well. And obviously breakout groups. And then here are some other platforms that some of my colleagues have mentioned that they've used really well for qualitative research. So here's an example. On the table, you'll see a flavor tray and a texture tray. The texture tray is to
Sorry,
the back.
Jani, can we ask if you can maybe just move slightly to the side for this one, because we can't see the picture as clearly. Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
There we go. So in the front is a flavor. So this was a tobacco product, and we needed to get them to explain to us what this tobacco tastes like. And so we had a flavor and a texture board. So the tray is then the analogy, the textures and the flavors that we have there. The input mechanism, we had numbers so that they could call out the number and say, okay, it tastes like number 14 or number 39. And then the mental model here is that three intelligences. So we wanted them to think by doing, think with your hands. So touch and find a texture that makes you think of this product versus just saying, I like this one or that one. So it forces them to come up with more creative descriptions of what's going on. Just one caution, something I learned the very hard way when you're using numbers and you're listening to a recording afterwards. Make sure that you choose unique sounding numbers, because 14 and 40 sounds very similar to a transcriber. And I once did an alcohol study where it was such a mess to understand what people did there, because that's where I learned this lesson. Say 14, 30, 30, 13, they all sound the same. So be careful in how you do that. So why does this work? Yeah, there. Because, I mean, like I said, people are just living their lives out there. They don't think about this stuff every day. So it's just a way of helping them give us a sound bite, give us a interpretive little chunk of information that we can use and try and interpret and understand. And it helps them also to see their lives in a different way. That could be helpful for us to use.
Sorry, Jani, can I just stop you there for a moment? If any of the participants have questions or comments, please just pop them into the chat box. We will monitor it and we will see it. And if there's questions, then Jani can answer them for us afterwards. Thank you.
Sure. But if it's an urgent question, I also don't mind the interruption, but whatever works. Okay, so I'm going to give just a rundown of examples of techniques. Examples are always helpful because then we easily understand. So mind setters. So when you've got a group of strangers together in a setting, or you're just meeting someone one-on-one in their home, or in an office, it's just helpful to have some kind of techniques that will just land the vibe and help us meet each other and create, some energy. So this one is a blind contour drawing. So the instruction is get out a pen and paper, and we are going to draw each other and just create a sketch. But the trick is you're not allowed to pick up your pen. Or you could just say that you're supposed to use your non-dominant hand. And the reason you do that is so that everyone's pictures will be ugly or will be distorted in some way. And this is a way of creating creative courage, because we are all going to do this thing and we are giving permission to fail. Because I'm giving you permission to do something, to make an ugly drawing. I'm also inviting you to just contribute tentative answers and just try and answer my questions. So this is really, and it's a quick one and it's inexpensive. It's just pen and paper. So that's a nice one. Meet my friend if you're working with kids ever, to say, bring your stuffed animal with, and you're going to introduce your stuffed animal to the rest of us. It's just a fun, easy way to help them bond, and to, it's non-threatening, and it's a safety object also that the child can keep with them throughout the interview. Just make sure that we give them instruction beforehand. So come to the interview with mommy with your stuffed animal. Don't on the Zoom call allow them to go and choose one, then they might not come back. So just be careful in how you give that instruction, and that they should all just bring one. You could, I guess, do this with real pets, but I think animals are always unpredictable. So yeah, the stuffed animals is a good one. Silent Simon Says, this is very great. Pictured here is one of my groups for Nickelodeon, where we had kind of middle school age kids, and you can use this to tone down the energy in a group or to pick it up. So it depends on if you've got one of those groups where kids are just crazy and there's no order and it's just not a productive conversation anymore. Having someone, kind of a co-moderator, so that it's a different voice, to say, okay, we're going to play this game, Silent Simon Says, and we all have to stand quiet and then mimic the movements made. So it's a great one to bring down the energy. Or if everyone's so shy and don't want to say anything, we can obviously be jumping up and down, and just get their blood moving, to bring up the energy level. A scribble, this is a very quick one. So it's really a great one if you don't want to dedicate time to an activity and you've just got a quick one. So just grab a piece of paper, do any scribble. And then the instruction is, can you turn the scribble into a bird? So I don't know if you've got a pen and paper there, just try it for yourself. It's so easy. Any scribble can very quickly be turned into a bird. Very quick and fun, very effective. So I'm not sure what kind of communication everyone on the call does, and if you're working with brands and marketing material at all. I'm sure some of you do, but it could be brands, it could be departments, it could be, I don't know, anything that you want to compare within other options. So guided fantasy, you could, for instance, say, all of these brands live somewhere in your city. Let's walk down the streets, or we're going to pretend we're flying over your hometown, and you're going to tell me where every brand lives. Which neighborhood? What does the house look like? How many rooms? Who would I find inside, etc.? Would you feel comfortable going to visit this one's room? It just gives you such rich, emotional, descriptive information, rather than just saying, tell me about this brand. You're just going to hear taste and maybe cost, etc. But if you want to understand the more emotive aspects around that experience, this is a great way of doing this. Just be careful of not having too many probes. Christine, I see there are some comments in the chat. Are those questions, or you'll interrupt me?
It's just basically comments like this, or an idea, or yeah. but
Okay.
I will interrupt you if there's a question.
Okay. Good. Men in a Tree, this is a fantastic, fantastic resource. It's so versatile. And if you look at the Blob Tree website, there are many different blob images. So you've also got one where the blobs are going over a bridge, which is fantastic to understand disposition to change. So maybe there's been a merger or some kind of a change in an organization to pinpoint and understand how people feel about the change. Now I'm stuck on this side of the bridge, or I'm at least in the middle of the bridge, although I'm falling off, or maybe I've reached the other side. So go and have a look. There's classroom examples, all kinds of examples, and it's not expensive to buy these images. But this is the tree. So it's very easy to say, okay, your department, find a figure here that represents how you feel about the IT department or about this brand. And then it's so easy to also get them to plot other brands. And this is one qualitative technique that you can use in a quantitative survey as well. If you've got a survey platform that allows people to click on an image and create a heat map for you, it's a nice way of using a qualitative technique, but at scale. So yeah, that is definitely a great one. Psycho drawing. So it's just draw everything that comes to mind when you think of X. So if you think of this new system that we just implemented, or you think about this oil spill in the Gulf, what is your reaction to this? And just draw for me, make drawings of what this comes up, and then show me this drawing and explain to me what you drew. But it's very important, the instruction that you give, to say you're not allowed to draw the actual thing. So you're not allowed to draw oil in water. You're not allowed to draw the Coca-Cola can. You have to draw metaphorical other things around that. So this could be tricky. I tried it once with kids to use modeling clay, Play-Doh, to create something for me, but they were very literal and they just created the actual things. So you need to also assess if your study and your audience that you're working with will be able to do this, but you can get incredibly creative, wonderful, emotive things out of this. The picture collage, wow, this is also very powerful. So you
Sorry,
can even
Jani,
start.
we have a question from Kason Lane. He wants to know, is this kind of research typically conducted in a group versus individually? And does a group setting create the risk of bias with participants being influenced by other responses?
Yeah, definitely. So you can use this on an individual level. You can use it with like a pair depth, 2 people in an interview, or small group like 3 or 4. You can use it in a focus group. The problem with bigger groups in these techniques is it could take a lot of time to get everyone to debrief what they've chosen and explain. But that picture I showed you earlier of the tobacco group, it can work beautifully in a group. Focus groups have pros and cons. One of the cons is sometimes there is a bit of a group think. So how I solve that is different ways. In the beginning of a group, I set down kind of group rules to say, I've got 6 people here tonight. I want 6 opinions. I don't want one opinion. And be careful that you don't just follow the herd. That's kind of an instruction in the beginning. And then once you start with these exercises, to watch out and see if some people are just checking out and kind of observing rather than really taking part and standing up for their opinion. The other technique is choice anchoring, like I said earlier, is that you build in individual exercises within your group setup. So you could have a QR code, and people take out their mobile phones and they kind of give you their individual opinion on options, and then we talk about it and we hear. So it really depends on your study. If you're trying to understand very detailed processes like decision making, so how do you decide on buying a new car or a house, and you want individual detail, then a group is not the best way of doing that, because then you've got so much dead time while 5 people are listening to one guy's 5-minute story. So it really, you need to weigh it up what you want to get out of your study and decide. But these techniques are absolutely useful in group settings. even big workshop settings where you've got a group of 30 people in small tables of 5 each. There are wonderful techniques that you can do in plenary. We're all doing this together. We're all doing silent Simon Says together to change the atmosphere in the room, or we are just doing some individual work versus group work. And it's important to have some individual work because there are introverts who are just more comfortable doing work on their own. So make sure that you allow for that, and you allow for those that kind of think by talking and think by they can't think until they start talking. So you need to allow for all of these different ways that people are and show up. Okay, the picture collage. So it all depends on what pictures you chose to put in there. So you can see here, I set up this set of pictures to look at these, you know, this personality color wheel of personalities. The cool blue is a kind of a cautious, precise, deliberate, questioning, formal personality. Red is more assertive and strong-willed and purposeful, etc. So to make sure that you then, if you've got 100 pictures, to have 25 of representing each of these states. Or you want to make sure that you've got some textures, some landscapes, some objects, some moody pictures, etc. So be very purposeful in the images that you curate. I find this works better than just having a stack of magazines and telling people to find a picture in the magazine. That takes much longer, and the quality of the volume of images that I need to work through to find something, versus if you can just have this spread out on a table, covered with something, then remove the cover, it's all set out immediately, and it's easy to just point to, oh, number 29, number 12, and then it stays like that. It's just more economical in terms of time, and it can be much more purposeful if you have really great pictures. Sentence completion. This is such a quick, underrated one. You can just ask people to complete the sentence, and you get such wonderful things out of this. I wish someone would do something about, well, just try it and see what you get out of that. And you can really do this even with kids. So it's really wonderful and very, very easy and completely free and cheap. Brand sort. If you want to try and understand the relationship between different options of things, for instance, brands, it's very useful to ask people to just sort them into groups that go together. But be careful, don't make sure they don't just put all the blue ones together and all the white ones together. So just often I would say just group them as you think it could work, and then say, okay, we're going to break this. You're not allowed to just do the obvious one. Don't just put the blues with the blues, and make sure that you debrief. Okay, so what is this group's name? What do I have to qualify to be in this group? Maybe some of them are unknown, so be sure to say, if there are any that you don't know, first remove them from the selection before we talk about it. And then if I can put only 2 together, or which one doesn't fit, etc. So just having some kind of stimulus material that you can talk about and move around and sort into groups. It's really a wonderful way of understanding a competitive set.
Jani, sorry, we've got 2 more questions. The one is from Kimochetsi. I'm hoping that I'm pronouncing that correctly. Fantastic techniques. Thank you, Jani, for sharing. Is it advisable to make use of various techniques for one research or study? It appears to me that various techniques are best suited for specific groups. That's the first question. Do you first want to answer that, or shall I ask the second one as well?
No, sure. So be careful of overkill. Don't put in too many. I'm going to get to that at the end. One of the learnings definitely is to don't just have like 7 techniques that you're going to run through. It can get a bit too much. If it's easier to just ask a question, always just ask the question. It's really, if you just can't get to a deeper answer, then that's when you use a technique.
Okay, super. Thank you. And then the other one is, does one really get the same quality information when doing these groups online as opposed to in person? That is Teresa.
That's a debate. We should debate it. I can ask all of you questions. If you think of an online meeting versus an in-person meeting, there are pros and cons. One of the big pros of an online group is that I can have someone from London, Nairobi and Lagos and Joburg, all of us together in a group, so cheaply, so easily. And also, if I wanted to have 5 BMW users in my group and we start the group and I hear, oh, wait, this guy wasn't recruited correctly, it's Toyota, oh, we need to bomb this group and start over, then the loss and the financial impact of that mistake is much smaller. That I've also learned the hard way, to fly to a city and get there and something goes wrong. So the cost implication is so much smaller. So those are some of the pros. But the cons are that, yes, if you're just in the room together with someone, it's much richer in interaction. There is, you can't ever compare, in my opinion, being in the same room as someone, being in the space where something needs to happen with someone, pointing to things and showing you the space. It's just so better. If you can do in person, it's always, in my experience, better. But it's not always practical and possible. And also when you're working online, I'm going to show you a whiteboard thing at the end. Those things are wonderful if you're doing innovation workshop and things, because then people are doing the work online. It's already captured, it's there, it's accessible. Wonderful. Instead of sticky notes on walls, which sometimes is better. It depends on what you're trying to do.
Thank you.
Okay, pack drawings. So if we want to update the design of things, then pack drawings are great. So I just ask you to draw this pack first. So I did this for Tusker Beer many years ago. Tusker Beer wanted to update their pack design. So we asked people to just draw the pack so that we could see what are the essential things that you can't remove. And it was so funny because Tusker Beer has an elephant on it. And the elephant, some would draw it like the elephant is looking you in the face. Some would draw it on a side profile, etc. So it's interesting the cues that people do pick up and which they don't. So then it's easy to identify which are the crucial elements to keep versus the ones that you can update and change. But yeah, I once said draw Marmite and some people heard mermaid. So be clear in how you explain what you're trying to do and give enough time, and also have color pencils available, because then you can see colors. But this is now specifically for pack change studies. A Dear John letter is a way of getting to understand what are pain points with something. So a Dear John letter is when you end a relationship or you end end something. So I'm going to break up with you. I'm going to quit this job, and explain to me your reasons why. It's a very fun and wonderful way to identify negative things. Okay, so if you want to test some things for testing, too much luggage. So sometimes we've got a website and we want to drop some content, and we want to drop some features. So this could be a way of saying, there's too much luggage on this thing. What can we drop? How can we make this lighter? So, but maybe it's just easier in that way to say, look at this website, what would you never click on, etc. So it really depends on what you're trying to do. But this is one way to just prioritize things. What can we leave behind? What is essential? What do we have to keep? A pretend Instagram, this is something you can just make in PowerPoint. And then the instruction is write a caption. What would you post about this concept or this thing? What image would you draw there? What would you say? Which hashtags would you write down? This is just lovely media also, because then you've got all these beautiful drawings that you can use in your slides to explain and to just bring the study to life. So this is really fun. If you've got users or respondents who will know what Instagram posts are and want to do this. Or you could even have them create actual posts or create little videos and things to send to you. So it really depends on what you're doing. A best friend interview. So sometimes I you could ask, what would your best friend tell me about you? Or you could actually ask two friends to come together and you interview them about each other, because we know things about others that we can't articulate as easily. It's just a different way of accessing information. And you can explain, would she really like this? Is she just saying this because she thinks I want to hear that from her? Or what could you tell me about how she would react? So it's just one step removed from my own experience. Okay, for exploration, we've got 10 minutes left. So yeah, it's an exploratory interview. So this is a scary one. This is only for advanced moderators or for senior kind of client relationships or mature client relationships. So we're just going to spend an hour with you. You're going to tell me about you, what is important for us to know about you. So it's scary because it's so open-ended, but obviously that moderator would know where we're aiming, more or less, but it's not with a detailed script. And this is wonderful because anything can happen in that interview. And then maybe 30 minutes in, you break cover and you tell them, okay, so now that you've told me what anyone should know about you, this is actually for a beauty brand. Now that you know this is for Johnson & Johnson, what does Johnson & Johnson need to know about you? But yeah, you need a good moderator. Let's walk. So this needs to be pre-planned, where you ask your consumer I want to see how you get to work every day. It's a public transport study. So prepare for me to come with you. So either I join you on your actual commute, or you're going to narrate it for us. We're going to do a Zoom call or something on your phone, and we're just going to join you for that full thing. Or you're going to go to your usual supermarket and take us on a walk through your supermarket, telling us what you see and narrating it for us. Or I want to see how you prepare breakfast in the morning. So it's just where this person prepares to show their world to you. And it has to be narrated and explained. What's in your pocket is a fun one, but also it's a bit unpredictable. Maybe they don't have anything in their pocket, or maybe there are private things in their pocket or their handbag. So, but this could also be a nice one. If it's you don't want to actually prime them to go and clean up their handbag. We want to know what's really in your handbag and what's maybe not there, that's usually there. But it could be interesting depending on what you're trying to do. Zine making, it's just a little magazine that when you want to understand a journey that someone goes through, so to ask them to create this medium for you. And co-creation, idea popcorn, is where we're sitting in a circle and we are going down the line, and each one of us has to come up with an idea. It's quick and you can't skip. You have to say something. When you are doing ideation, you have to pump out the muddy water before you get to the nice clean spring at the bottom. You can't get quality ideas without generating lots of ideas. So quantity gives you quality. You can't just come up with a brilliant idea. So this is one of those ways of getting lots of nonsense ideas. Role play. I was so surprised. I've used this I had this study. We were researching this one innovation for a client for literally 4 years to try and crack it for the specific consumer market who's never been able to, they just haven't been able to crack that segment. And when we did role play, people just come up with things that they would never think of just saying in an interview. So I know Teresa says it always works. It just accesses a different kind of experience and access different kind of information. So just give it a try. And also, do a round and then switch the characters or switch the situation and do a round again. Don't let it go on for too long. Just do a quick one. Okay, regroup, change characters, and then do a quick one again. Some practical example of learnings. Sometimes I come up with these elaborate techniques like this one. Oh, and I think it's going to be so great, but it takes you 2 seconds asking this to actual people to answer it for you to know it's a bust. It's not going to work. So test it and don't be precious about your things. If it falls flat, then just drop it. Have backup plans. Yeah, how much time does it take to actually do this technique? If it's going to be quicker to just ask it in a different way, then rather do, because sometimes it just takes too long. Extending your time. So I've got you for an hour interview, but I can ask you to do homework beforehand or afterwards, and then it extends my time in your world without taking up time in the interview. Yeah, do a dress rehearsal if you're doing online. Just get them to test their things. Key man or key woman, just that moderator in the viewing room that helps translate things from the client side to the moderator. Yeah, be intentional, plan it well, make it fun, keep it simple, and trust your participants. They've got resources that you can access and get them to explain things to you, and just be brave and ask. So that's the end of my presentation, but we've got a mural board, which is a white space where you can, it looks like this. So we've got a link for you in the chat. So go there and just explore and look around. It's just a way of looking at the same content we just had, but on a mural board. So go and find it's set up as an exhibition space. So here in the bottom left, you've got it's behind my head there. It's the mingling area. So go and find a block there and put in your details, like your name and your LinkedIn profile if you want. Here at the top, we've got our welcome section where we want you to just go and put a pin on the map. It's just a way of exploring this platform a little bit. And then here in the bottom right, there's a visitor's book, and there's a space for you to download this deck of slides. But if you can't get that to work, you can always just get it on email or get it in the link that we can also share in the chat. Okay.
Wow, Jani, thank you. That was extremely informative. Yes, thank you. I think that was, yeah, it was fascinating. My whole mind's going vugu, 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 and I'm thinking I can use it for this client, and we're going to now do it there. So thank you for that. Yes, we are making a recording. It will be available on our IBC Africa YouTube channel, and naturally we'll also send out an email afterwards with the link to the mural as well as to your actual slide of decks. My question is, which one of all of these are your favorite and why?
Oh, yeah, I've got my little bag of tricks that I always love. I love my picture collage. I love my texture tray, and I love the men in the tree. It's just so versatile. You get so much out of it. Oh, and I love a role play.
Yeah, no, role play is always a winner. It is just that thing that people feel I can now say things because I'm in character, which I will normally just never come out with. Yes, no, fantastic.
Don't like that word, but if you can get them to do it, it's always worth it.
Absolutely. Do we have any other questions? Someone that has another question that they would like to ask Jani?
Christine, if I can ask a question, it's Amanda here.
Amanda. Yes.
Yeah, Jani, it was fascinating. Thank you for that.
Pleasure.
What is your view on cartoon completion? I often use a picture, but that's in a room, when we have the people in the room, a picture of people standing around with speech bubbles. And then I ask them, these people just came out of a meeting where they were informed about ... What are they saying to each other?
It's great. No, I think that's a good...
Do you use that? What's your view on that?
Yeah, I guess I have. No, I think it's a great idea, and you can use many different settings. It can be a meeting, or it can be two friends talking to each other. It's so versatile. It's great.
Yeah, it is. I often use it.
Thanks for sharing.
Yes, that is also a very nice one. Thank you. Anybody else?
Any funny experiences? What?
Jani, any funny experiences you want to share?
Yeah, I did the men in the tree with farmers, and I had these 3 brands they needed to plot on the tree, and I was very clever. I had these stickers printed, very fancy stickers with the brand name. I had stacks of stickers, but it took us just like literally 1 minute in that group with these. I mean, their hands are calloused and dirty, and Now they're trying to get this sticker on. I'm like, okay, chucking the stickers, just write, just say
Yeah.
to me which one. So that's funny.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. Last chance for a question. Okay. Jani, I think,
Christine,
yes,
sorry,
it sounds like
I have a
Teresa.
quick one.
Yes.
It is Teresa, but you know me too well. Jani, I just love these examples. Thanks for sharing so freely. It's wonderful.
Pleasure.
I want to know, are there any of these that are more suitable to marketing communication and others that are more suitable, for example, to doing research with an internal audience?
With employees,
Yes.
sure, they're all people.
Okay.
Just be brave. I promise you, like the texture tray, I've used with board members, executives, and I've used with kids, and I've used with almost like that thing I showed you was a rural tobacco study. You just be brave and test it out and see if it works. Yeah, these things are great. Yeah, the Dear John letter.
Absolutely. Jani, our time is up. Natalie, can I please ask you if you can share the slide with Jani's contact details? As I said, we will be sharing the slide deck and the actual mural, but should you wish to contact Jani to ask her anything else, maybe to contract her to come and assist you with some research, that will be fantastic. And thank you so much for being on the call. Thank you for showing up. And Jani, yeah, thank you for broadening our horizons on how we can do things differently versus just a normal focus group or a listening group. We really, really appreciate it. And just my last sales pitch, and if you are not an IABC member yet, please send an email to info@iabc.co.za and Natalie will gladly assist you. I appreciate it. Thank you, everyone.
Great. I wish I could compare all these AI note takers and see what